In this video, we'll be taking a look at 4 NBA games happening on December 31st, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 8 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 4 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Golden State Warriors versus Charlotte Hornets. The Warriors go into this one still a little short-handed, with Seth Curry ruled out again, while the Hornets have Mason Plumlee and Ryan Kalkbrenner sidelined and both Pat Connaughton and Miles Bridges listed as questionable as they head into game day. The net effect is that Golden State feels closer to full strength, even with that absence, while Charlotte is juggling front court depth and wing minutes. Golden State has shaken off that sluggish start to the season and is finally playing like a group that remembers who it is, almost fully healthy and carrying some fresh winning momentum into this matchup. They opened this 3-game road trip with a wild 141-127 setback in Toronto, officially logged as an overtime loss, then answered the very next night with a controlled 120-107 win in Brooklyn, which at least rewarded backers for trusting them there. Here is the thing. Even with that cover in Brooklyn, the Warriors are still only 2-6 against the spread across their past 8 games, and 6-12 against the spread in their last 18, so anyone laying points with them is accepting that the recent box scores look better than the recent betting record. It is a small leap of faith, and it feels a little uncomfortable, which is often exactly how betting a favorite in a form shift feels. On the other side, Charlotte had quietly built a 3-0 run against the spread before running into Milwaukee and falling 123-113 at home. They are still 7-3 against the spread across their past 10 games, so this has not been a pushover team for bettors lately, even if the win-loss column has been streaky. They also have a few key rotation players banged up, with Kalkbrenner out, the rookie Con Knueppel nursing that ankle but expected to go, and both Bridges and Connaughton uncertain. Matchup history tilts heavily the other way, though. Golden State has taken the past 5 meetings straight up and against the spread, and the last 2 trips into Charlotte both ended in 18-point wins, which is a pretty loud pattern when you are talking about the same core star on one side facing the same franchise. So, while the recent against the spread numbers warn you to be careful with Golden State, the combination of near full health, better current form, and dominant recent history in this specific pairing still points toward the Warriors being the more likely side to cover as road favorites. As our first pick for this matchup, the Golden State Warriors to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Golden State is putting up 114.6 points per game on 45.2% shooting from the field, while giving up 112.4 points on 46.2% shooting. They are at 36% from three-point range and a strong 81.7% at the free throw line, and they hold opponents to 33.9% from deep while pulling down 44 rebounds per night. So they score enough, they shoot well enough beyond the arc, and they do not exactly smother people on defense, which often creates those back and forth stretches that keep a total alive late. Charlotte's profile pushes things even further toward a higher scoring script. The Hornets average 115.4 points per game on 45.5% shooting and surrender 118.8 points on 48.9% shooting, which is a polite way of saying their defense lets a lot of good looks go. They are hitting 35.9% of their threes, almost matching Golden State, and 81.6% from the line, while allowing opponents to shoot a hefty 38.3% from beyond the arc and matching the Warriors with 44.4 rebounds. When you stack those numbers side by side, you get 2 offenses that can score from the perimeter and the stripe, and 2 defenses that are leaky enough, especially Charlotte's, to keep the scoreboard moving. The shared rebounding strength suggests there will be plenty of second chances, and with both teams comfortable from 3 in the free throw line, small runs can snowball into big totals pretty quickly. Even with a few Hornets pieces banged up, the injuries described tilt more toward hurting their defensive size and cohesion than their ability to put points on the board, so the basic expectation still leans toward a game that plays faster and looser than a low-scoring grinder. All of that taken together points toward a final score that has a very good chance of pushing surpassed a typical projected number for this matchup. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Minnesota Timberwolves versus Atlanta Hawks. The Timberwolves are still missing Terrence Shannon Jr., while the Hawks are watching Trae Young's status carefully with that questionable tag hanging over this matchup. Minnesota still comes in as the clear favorite because they have been one of the form teams in the league, and Atlanta has gone ice cold even as the roster has mostly gotten back to full health. This is the first meeting between these two this season, so we are really leaning on recent form and team trajectories instead of head-to-head results. Minnesota just handled business in Chicago with far less stress than anyone probably expected, cruising to a 136-101 win over the Bulls. No starter logged more than 32 minutes, which matters a lot on the second night of a back-to-back because the legs should be fresher than you would usually expect in this kind of spot. They have already played 4 times in this back-to-back scenario this season, and both of the losses came against Denver, which is a brutal matchup even when rest is not an issue. Facing Atlanta's current version of defense is a much softer landing, and in 2 of their last 3 games, the Timberwolves have cleared 130 points, which shows how easily they can put pressure on a shaky defense. Atlanta's situation is messy, and it shows. The noise around a possible split between the Hawks and Trae Young keeps getting louder, and on the floor the product has looked just as unstable. Since his return from injury, the team has fallen off a cliff defensively, and this 7-game losing streak has almost dropped them completely out of the playoff picture. They have allowed at least 125 points in 7 straight games, which is a wild number, and Monday's loss saw them surrender 140 in a double-digit defeat to Oklahoma City. It is hard to expect an immediate turnaround when the central question of what to do with your star guard is still unresolved. Young is a defensive liability at the point of attack, and with a physical scoring guard like Anthony Edwards coming home and looking to put on a show on New Year's Eve, it sets up as another tough cover assignment for Atlanta's perimeter. From a betting angle, there is a bit of a love-hate thing going with Minnesota. They are playing winning basketball, but they also have a tendency to play with their food, and that habit shows up in a 13-20 record against the spread. The Hawks are getting healthier, which is a small plus for the home side, and on paper that might scare some people away from laying points on the road. Still, the gap in quality right now is pretty obvious. Minnesota has won 11 of its last 15 games, while Atlanta is sinking. The Hawks have lost 5 straight at home and have managed to cover the spread only twice in their past 9 games overall. Across 6 recent meetings, Minnesota has taken 4 of them, so even the broader matchup history leans their way. Home court has offered little comfort, with the Hawks sitting at just 5-11 straight up in their own building. So while it is fair to be cautious with a favorite that sometimes coasts, the form, the matchup, and the mental state of both clubs all tilt toward Minnesota being more likely to win comfortably than Atlanta suddenly snapping into shape. As our first pick for this matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Shifting from who covers to what the scoreboard might look like, the scoring profiles for these two teams give us a different sort of puzzle. Honestly, the raw numbers are loud, but they do not all point in the same direction at first glance. Minnesota is averaging 118.5 points per game on 47.6% shooting from the field, while allowing 113.5 points on 45.5% shooting. They are hitting 37% of their three-point attempts and 75.9% from the free throw line. On the other side of the ball, they are holding opponents to 34.9% from beyond the arc and grabbing 44.3 rebounds per game. Those figures describe a team that scores efficiently but also makes opponents work a bit harder for clean perimeter looks. And that mix can sometimes keep games from turning into pure track meets. Atlanta's stat line is a little noisier. The Hawks are averaging 118.8 points on 48.3% shooting and giving up 119.6 points on 47.9% shooting. They are shooting 6.9% from beyond the arc, which is obviously an extremely low figure as listed, and 78.6% from the free throw line, while allowing opponents to hit 36.2% from deep and pulling down 41.8 rebounds per game. So you have a team that is scoring plenty overall, conceding almost as much, and not matching Minnesota on the glass. When you put these profiles side by side, a few things jump out. Minnesota's combination of solid defense on the perimeter, better rebounding, and organized half-court play can slow the game down, especially against a team that has been frustrated and pressing. Atlanta's defense has been leaky, but with fatigue in play on Minnesota's side and Trae Young's status still in question, there is also a decent chance the pace is a little more controlled than the recent high-scoring box scores might suggest. If Minnesota manages to impose its structure and keep Atlanta from getting comfortable in transition, the scoring can sit in a band that feels lively but not wild. In that kind of script, both teams can still reach respectable totals without blowing past a high projected number. So even with all those points per game hanging over this matchup, the mix of Minnesota's defensive numbers, their rebounding edge, and the Hawks' current crisis hints more at a game that can land below a lofty total than one that simply turns into another free-for-all. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Orlando Magic versus Indiana Pacers. The Magic are still without Franz Wagner and Moritz Wagner, and they are staring at a long list of question marks with Jonathan Isaac, Jalen Suggs, and Desmond Bane all tagged as questionable for this one. The Pacers are in a slightly cleaner spot on the injury front, with Isaiah Jackson ruled out and Ben Shepherd carrying the lone questionable label. So you get this odd mix. Orlando has not really been playing its sharpest basketball lately, and with so many rotation pieces in limbo, there is a real sense of vulnerability hanging over them. When half your key names are buried in the injury report, it can affect rhythm, roles, and even the overall mood, even if some of those guys end up being cleared. That uncertainty cracks the door open for Indiana, even if the Pacers have been struggling and frustrating their own backers more often than not. Here is the thing, this is one of those matchups where checking confirmed lineups closer to tip-off actually matters, because a couple of in or out pushes can swing how this game feels. Still, even with their flaws, the Pacers have enough talent to pull an upset when the situation is right, especially when the opponent is wobbling. You can almost picture this as a classic catch the favorite at the wrong time spot, where the underdog hangs around, gets a little confidence, and suddenly we are talking about which side of the spread survives in the final minutes. With Orlando off form and so many moving parts health-wise, Indiana catching points has a reasonable path to make this competitive and keep things close enough for a cover, if not more. As our first pick for this matchup, the Indiana Pacers to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Orlando Magic are averaging 117.2 points on 46.8% shooting from the field and allowing 114.8 points on 47.8% shooting. They are hitting 34.3% of their three-point attempts and 78.9% from the free throw line. They allow opponents to shoot 35.7% from deep, and they are pulling down 45 rebounds per game. So you have a team that scores fairly well, does not completely clamp down on opponents, and gives enough possessions through rebounding for the total to stay active for all four quarters. On the other side, the Indiana Pacers are averaging 109.2 points on 42.9% shooting and allowing 117.7 points on 47.6% shooting. They are shooting 32.1% from beyond the arc and 77.3% at the stripe, while allowing just 33.5% from deep and grabbing 43.7 rebounds per game. The scoring allowed number jumps off the page. Giving up 117.7 points per night on that kind of efficiency from opponents tends to create long stretches of trading baskets, and even when their own offense misfires a bit, the defensive issues keep totals in play. Put all of that together and you get a matchup where one team scores comfortably and defends just well enough, and the other leaks points badly on most nights while still putting together enough offense to stay involved. The rebounding figures suggest there will be plenty of second chance looks, which is usually good news for anyone holding an over ticket. Even if Indiana's shooting percentages lag at times, the combination of Orlando's scoring average, the Pacers' defensive issues, and the overall points allowed on both sides leans toward a game that can climb past a typical projected number rather than settle into a slow grind. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Phoenix Suns versus Cleveland Cavaliers. The Suns are still missing Jalen Green and Grayson Allen, with Ryan Dunn carrying a questionable tag. The Cavaliers, on the other hand, have ruled out Max Strus and Larry Nance Jr., which chips away at some of their depth and flexibility. Quietly, Phoenix has been stacking wins without a ton of hype, just showing up and getting the job done. Cleveland finally grabbed a much-needed 113-101 win over the Spurs on Monday, but before that they were really fighting their form. So it makes sense that the Cavaliers opened as home favorites. That is the usual automatic pricing spot. But if you zoom out, it is the Suns who have actually been the steadier team through the season. Phoenix is on the fourth and final stop of this road trip, and they are 3-0 straight up and against the spread so far. They have covered 6 in a row since December 18th, which is not a fluke streak anymore, it is a trend. They have scored 115 or more points in each of the past 5 games, and they are 2-1 straight up and against the spread in 3 games against Eastern Conference opponents this season. They have also taken 3 of the last 4 overall and 7 of the previous 10 in this head-to-head series, which gives them a nice bit of psychological edge. The injury note is the same story repeated. Jalen Green is still out with a strained right hamstring, and Grayson Allen has that knee issue making him doubtful. Cleveland's recent record against the number is rough. The win in San Antonio salvaged 1 game on the road swing, but they are still just 2-8 against the spread in the last 10, 4-12 against the spread in the last 16, and a league-worst 10-24 against the spread for the season. They are only 4-5 against the spread in 9 tries against Western Conference teams, and just 1-4 against the spread in the last 5 at home. Even when they win, they rarely give bettors a stress-free cover. Here is the thing, they keep getting priced like the version of this roster that pushed deep last year, but the current form does not match that reputation. Phoenix, by contrast, is sitting at 21-10-1 against the spread, and that includes 6 straight covers, which is exactly the kind of profile you want when you are grabbing points. The Suns have also won 7 of the last 10 against the Cavs, which quietly reinforces that they are not intimidated by this matchup or this building. So when you put it all together, it feels like one of those games that grinds down to the last few possessions, with Phoenix hanging around and forcing Cleveland to actually earn every inch. If you expect a tight finish, then any points in your pocket with the Suns suddenly look very appealing. As our first pick for this matchup, the Phoenix Suns to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Phoenix Suns are averaging 114.9 points on 46.8% shooting and allowing 113.9 points on 47.5% shooting. They are knocking down 36.4% of their three-point attempts and 79.7% from the free throw line. They allow 35.7% shooting from deep and collect 41.9 rebounds per game. So they have a solid offense that scores efficiently, a defense that is respectable but not suffocating, and a rebounding base that keeps possessions from drying up. Cleveland's stat sheet brings even more volume. The Cavaliers are averaging 120 points per game on 46.3% shooting and allowing 117.5 points on 46.8% shooting. They are hitting 34.8% from beyond the arc and 78% at the line, while allowing opponents to shoot 37.3% from 3 and grabbing 44.5 rebounds per game. Those numbers describe a team that can score in bunches but also gives a lot back, especially from the perimeter. Put side by side, both teams are living in that 115 to 120 points per night neighborhood, and both are giving up north of 113. The Suns shooting from deep and at the stripe helps them stay efficient even if the pace dips a little. The Cavaliers' weaker three-point defense and their willingness to trade baskets tend to push games into higher totals, especially against a capable offensive opponent like Phoenix. The rebound edge for Cleveland also means extra looks, and extra looks usually turn into extra points. So you are looking at a matchup where both offenses have clear paths to get comfortable, while neither defense has been locking teams down consistently. That kind of environment often produces a game that feels like it never quite settles, with runs in both directions and the total staying live from tip-off to final horn. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.